Call of Duty has been making a habit of copy-pasting older maps into newer games. This is usually a pretty well-received practice for the most part, but other times, the developers decide to go full-on reimagining of a classic map. They change the setting while keeping the layout the same with a few minor changes. What is up, everybody? Jimmy or Chaos. Today, we're going to be looking at what I think are the 10 best map remakes in COD history. I want to be clear. In order to be eligible for this list, the remake has to have some differences from the original. We're not going to be considering simple copy-paste remakes like Firing Range in BO6 or the classic Modern Warfare maps in Modern Warfare 3 2023. These are going to be remakes that took the original map, made some adjustments, and created something pretty cool. So you let me know in the comments what you think are the best COD map remakes. Drop a like on the video, and here we go. At number 10 is Empire in Black Ops 3. So translating a boots-on-the-ground map into a jetpack map can be very trying and difficult. Doesn't always go well, but Treyarch nailed it a few times with some of their BO3 remakes. Yes, they had a couple bad ones, but Empire was one of the good ones. This DLC map was a remake of the iconic map Raid from Black Ops 2. Now, even though Raid had a super fast-paced close-range map, it actually worked really well after Treyarch stretched everything out to make more room for the jetpacks. Empire takes place on a massive Roman villa instead of someone's Hollywood estate. Features some absolutely gorgeous architecture that breathed new life into the classic Raid layout. Now, some of the lanes were made wider to give you more room to boost, jump, and slide around, and I swear the inside of the buildings have taller roofs than before. But the layout itself is mostly the same as it was back in 2012. It worked extremely well. Before we move on, guys, over at G2A.com, it is Souls Month. That's right, if you're looking to try Elden Ring for the first time, or you're looking to the continuation with Night Rain, definitely go check it out. The link is at the top of the description. The sale is going on all month. At number 9, Radar in Vanguard. Vanguard is rapidly becoming this generation's COD Ghosts. If you were around when Ghosts came out, you probably remember absolutely everybody hated it, but as time went on, it aged like fine wine, people softened, and now there's a lot of people who insist it was underrated. The exact same thing is happening with Vanguard. It was universally hated when it came out, but now, years ago, or years have gone by, people go back and they're a little bit nicer to it. Now there's a lot of people who insist it's really good. Now, regardless of what you think about the game, it did have a pretty sweet remake of Modern Warfare 3's Dome in the form of Radar. Takes place, of course, in a radar station in the Pacific Ocean in 1944. Features mostly identical layouts to the classic map from MW3. The inside sections, pretty crazy. Catwalks were risky but could greatly reward your courage, and there was always people sweating. Well, they were sweating something off, going for nukes, just like the old days. Sledgehammer has always been good at translating classic COD maps to a World War II themed setting. And if you're into that and you like Sledgehammer, you're going to be hearing quite a bit about their other World War II theme remakes later on in this video. At number 8, Skyjacked in Black Ops 3. This was the first Black Ops 2 map remake that Treyarch dropped for Black Ops 3. We were nervous. We were. Skyjacked is a remake of the iconic map Hijacked, which was widely seen as one of the best maps in Black Ops 2. Now, we were all a little unsure about how a map that tight and compact would work with jetpacks, but Treyarch did a good job, actually a great job, at making the map a bit bigger to compensate for the jetpacks without making it too big. Skyjacked was still an extremely fast-paced map that maintained that same spirit as Hijacked, but you had the futuristic setting and a little more wiggle room. There's also some neat little tweaks to the layout that made it easier to flank the other team from the bottom level. You could shake up your approaches from the side lanes as well. Camping the second story windows wasn't as easy in this version of the map as it was back in Black Ops 2, but honestly, I think that's a good thing depending on who you are. I mean, I really like the remake. I think it's another good example of how to translate a boots-on-the-ground map into a game with advanced movement. At number 7, Beach Bog in Modern Warfare Remastered. Bog has always been a bit of a controversial map because on one hand, it was a lot of fun to snipe. On the other hand, it was really easy to get spawn trapped, which would turn objective modes like Domination into complete blowouts. But Raven decided to do something interesting while they were supporting Modern Warfare Remastered. During the 2017 Days of Summer event, if you guys remember that, they released a brand new version of Bog called Beach Bog. Made a lot of changes to the original map, and a lot of people thought it was an all-around improvement. The original Bog took place in the middle of the night in the middle of a junk-filled desert swamp with a lot of super long sightlines. Beach Bog, on the other hand, took place in the middle of the day. Moved the setting to a little desert beach town. Actually added a couple walls to the two major spawn points to completely erase that infamous spawn trap. So you could finally enjoy the greatness of Bog without having to worry about people spawn trapping you from across the map, and without having to squint at your TV because the lighting was so dark. Honestly, I liked Beach Bog better. I thought it was a great way to reimagine a classic map in a way that keeps all the good parts and addresses the community's complaints without changing too much. At number 6, one of my favorites, Hazard in the original Black Ops. A lot of people love this map, and they really had no idea that it was actually a remake. Hazard was a pretty big map in the original Black Ops, but it was actually a remake of Cliffside from World at War. Now, instead of taking place on a big bunch of rocks and sand, it now took place on a Cuban golf course that played amazingly with the new mechanics of Black Ops at that time. World at War was a very stripped-down game. Black Ops 1 not only included way more perks and kill streaks than World at War, but it also had faster movement, dolphin diving, way more guns, totally changed how the map played. Hazard was an excellent map for long-range engagement. Still somehow one of the most visually impressive maps in COD history. It was so green, so many Easter eggs. The green on this map, some of the greenest green I've ever seen. I have no clue how they did that on the PS3 and the Xbox 360. Hazard's a fantastic example of how to totally change the setting of a classic map without losing what made the layout good. Cliffside was one of my favorite maps in World at War. Hazard, it took it to a whole new level. At number 5, Uplink in Black Ops 2. Now, Treyarch has a long history of putting some awesome new themes on older maps. I think that's part of the reason why people get a little annoyed with them now when they just copy-paste older maps into newer games, because they've done some really cool updates in the past. Case in point, Uplink from Black Ops 2. This map was dark, rainy mountaintop facility, released as DLC a few months after the game came out. It was fast-paced, it was exciting, the layout was good, but you know why the layout was so great? Because it was Summit from Black Ops 1. Treyarch took the classic snow map, changed the lighting, changed the weather, changed the architecture, turned into a top-tier Black Ops 2 map. Now, I don't know why this isn't the standard practice with map remakes now. Seems like modern COD games just copy-paste old maps instead of doing something fresh and new with the setting, and to me, it's kind of lazy and lame. Uplink was awesome. It had its own distinct personality from the map that it was remaking. We really honestly don't get stuff like this anymore. At number 4, Shipment 1944 in COD World War II. Now we know, Shipment is one of the most remade maps in COD history, but the version in COD World War II, this was the first time it was ever remade. It was. I think it's the best. In fact, some of the community would argue this is the best version of Shipment, period. You guys can argue that in the comment section. I don't know if I personally rank it above the classic COD 4 version, but I will not deny it's a really good remake. It's one of the most beloved maps or remakes in franchise history. It was released free for everybody in March of 2018. Features the same layout as the COD 4 version, but there's a few adjustments made to the spawns and the wall density. Made it flow better with the mechanics and the weaponry of COD World War II. You had brighter lighting, also made it easier to see enemies from one side of the map to the other, which reduced the amount of corner camping and the lack of frag ×3 and martyrdom in COD World War II. Well, that made Shipment a little less hectic than its 2007 original. Perfect way to handle a map, or at least a remake. Changing the setting to somewhere new, but keep the layout the same while adjusting little things like spawns, level architecture, make the experience more balanced than it was before. I see why some people consider this the best version. At number 3, Occupation in COD World War II. Another remake from COD World War II that followed the same philosophy as Shipment. Occupation was released as DLC pretty early in COD World War II's life cycle, was an instant hit with the community because it was a remake of Resistance from Modern Warfare 3, which was one of the best maps in the game. Resistance took place in Paris in the 2010s, but Occupation takes place on that same stretch of Paris, but in 1944. The layout was exactly the same as it was back in MW3, but Sledgehammer made some changes to the spawns, the lighting, the color scheme, and the wall density once again to better fit with COD World War II's weapon selection, and the end result? Well, it was a fantastic multiplayer map that could be played in a number of ways. Would you run around the outside lanes and try to flank the enemy team? Would you camp on the main roads with a sniper rifle? Would you charge headfirst into the center building with a shotgun? Occupation was awesome. It was an awesome remake of Resistance, and since there was no support strike package in the game, you didn't have to worry about people spamming stealth bombers. At number 2, Valkyrie in COD World War II. Now, there's been debate in the community over whether or not this is actually a remake, because Sledgehammer never came out and said it was, but when you look at the layouts, I think it's pretty clear it was meant to be one. Valkyrie was one of the first DLC maps released for COD World War II, and immediately upon seeing it, we knew it was Detroit from Advanced Warfare. But instead of taking place in the US in the near future, Valkyrie takes place in East Prussia in 1945, has two teams fighting over a German military base. Now, despite not having the exosuits or the advanced movement, Valkyrie plays quick. It's one of the most fun maps in the game. You'd run around the streets around the main building, dive inside when you were ready to be a macho man, and try to fight off the entire enemy team at once. Hardpoint and Dom were crazy. It was a good example of how to translate a jetpack map into boots on the ground. Personally, I would love to see other jetpack era maps be translated to boots on the ground. Treyarch recently did that by bringing Fringe from Black Ops 3 into 6, so hopefully we can get more of that in the future. Now, number 1 today has to be Studio in Black Ops 2. This is still the peak of map remakes in my eyes, and I think a lot of you are probably going to agree with me. Studio was released as part of the Uprising DLC. It was a remake of the classic firing range from Black Ops 1, but Instead of taking place on a big military training facility, we're now in a giant Hollywood backlot. So each area of the map was themed to different movie genres and had a ton of cool set pieces. One part of the map was a giant model of a city, like what they used to do with the Godzilla movies. Another part, big animatronic dinosaur looking down at you. One part of the map was themed to be the Wild West. The middle structure and sniper tower now look like a medieval castle, and so on and so forth. The layout was exactly the same as firing range, but those minor changes and tweaks to the height of certain things to accommodate the faster running and climbing speeds of Black Ops 2, it was great. And of course the spawns were adjusted as well. Studio plays great. I still think it's the best version of firing range. This may be a hot take because I know a lot of you love the original. I do too, but I think this one takes it. There you have it. Let me know one best map remake with the rules we set that I did not mention that I should have, and I'll see you soon.